imagine something with me. Imagine somebody's given you something brand new, a brand new piece of technology, a brand new process, and the first time you see it, you're like, yes, I can do it. This is amazing. This is what's going to happen. Now I want you to imagine that you've just developed something that you've given to somebody else. You've given them a new application, a new flow, a new process, a new way to carry the laundry basket upstairs, because that is what I do. I treat my house as a laboratory. There are a couple of you in here that know my husband and child. Do not tell them, because I test everything out on them first. They don't know it. I'm like, here we go. This is our academic laboratory. So imagine that you've given somebody something brand new, and you're like, this is the way that we carry our shoes upstairs every single night when you come home and kick them in the middle of the floor. Imagine every time you do that, something works. It's hard to imagine, right? Because humans do not like change. We're like neurons. We like to travel the path of least resistance. You heard in Chad's presentation when he mentioned people don't like change. It's hard to make change. Change requires discipline. And if I said, who here really loves change? Jeremy would raise his hand because he does. But everybody else would be like, if it's something I'm directing, yes, I love it. But if it's something that somebody else is telling me, I really don't, right? Did you ever work in an organization that switched from Outlook to Google or vice versa? Or went from one type of keeping time to another type of keeping time? It does not feel good. And you've heard this sort of thing, like it takes 3 weeks to establish a habit. Sort of true, it's sort of true. But I'm going to give you some insight into research that I've done on change management, on technology user adoption, and then I'm going to give you the shortcut, the Cliff's Notes, so you too do not have to spend 4 years researching this topic, because while that's really fun, it's not. My name is Shannon Gregg. I'm so pleased to be with you here today. I'm the president of Cloud Adoption Solutions. We are focused on change management, end user change management. And I wrote my dissertation topic was how diffusion of innovations, change management, and adult learner user adoption theories impact customer relationship management, adoption, and usage. Which makes me really fun at parties, you guys. You can't get like one sip of your Pinot Grigio in before you're like, oh, well, that's fun. I'll see you later. Thanks a lot. One of the things that's really interesting about writing a dissertation is you have to invent a question that you get really furious at. You get so angry at that question that it drives you to complete it. And you have to start by finding 100 peer-reviewed pieces of research that say, yes, there's something here. So in order for me to even get to this title, I had to review maybe 1,200 pieces of research, because there's nothing out there that says, how do humans adopt Salesforce? There are loads of articles, there are loads of people complaining about it. I don't know if you sit inside of any Salesforce forums. I love Reddit the most, but everybody's like, number one problem. And everybody's got some sort of technology application that fixes it. Oh my gosh, you guys. If you already don't like technology, a new application is going to make you like it better, right? So a lot of it comes from drive. A lot of it comes from executives. A lot of it comes from modeled behavior. I'm going to tell you some of the things that I found out when I was doing this research. So after I found 100 pieces of research that said, yes, there's something here, there's a problem here you can solve, I said, great, I'm going to do qualitative research. I'm going to do quantitative research, right? Because who here believes in data-driven decisions? Everybody believes in data-driven decisions, right? There's not emotion in business. We don't sit down and say, show me your emotional dashboard so we can look at our pipeline. That's not how that goes. So I was like, yes, I am definitely doing quantitative research. I love numbers. Numbers will tell the story. Well, guess what, you guys? There is nothing out there that already exists that says, how do you or do you not adopt Salesforce.com? That doesn't exist. So I was like, well, okay, right. How do I write the scale? There's got to be a scale that will be fit for purpose. And they're like, yes. So you have to do research on the scale that'll add 12 years. And I said, I am out. Qualitative research. Here we go. So what did that turn into? I found these 3 theories that I said, these 3, when combined, say, here's what user adoption is. It sits in between these 3 theories. Change management theory, which there are a few, I'm going to give you the insights to. That's where all of your shortcuts are going to come, so you don't have to sit and painfully look at library, although Nowadays, you guys, very unlike my bachelor's degree, library is all online, so you don't actually have to go anywhere to do the research, which is a little better. The diffusion of innovations theory, which basically says, how does an idea spread, right? Once I have an idea, how does it spread? Just like a diffuser you might use on your hair. And then the adult education, adult learning theory, which a lot of you know, right? That, are you an auditory learner? Are you a visual learner? Are you a kinesthetic learner? Secret here is everybody is a little bit of each. You may be primarily more one than the other, but everybody's a little bit of each. So how are we going to get these out? How are we going to spread these to the people? Well, when I did this research, I came up with some major themes. I actually interviewed people. A lot of this was done on Zoom because, COVID. And I recorded them all, translated them all using a brilliant tool, Otter.ai, which was the best thing that was available at the time, and then went through and started saying, what feels the same? What are these people saying to me that feels the same? When they said this, did they actually mean this? And starting to do this affinity clustering. And so I found there were 5 sort of codes that came out where I could say, what are the reasons to shift to CRM? How painful is your life on Excel? Because that's what most of the people were coming from, Excel or some sort of less robust CRM system. So what were their reasons to shift to CRM? What was the process of change? So how did they move from doing things manually? We've all met that salesperson that writes things on little sticky notes and puts them on the wall because they love to see their work. They're like, yes, I have so many things in the pipeline. Just wait until next quarter. I know I'm not going to hit my quota this quarter. And then how their team members learn CRM. So you've got people who really, really love it, and you've got people that really, really hate it, and you've got people in the middle that don't want to talk to you about it because they're like, it's just something you make me do. How time saved by a CRM system has helped the organization. So what's that outcome, right? Those are those quick wins that we like to talk about. And then what suggestions for improvement do they have for CRM and organizations? Which is the piece a lot of us forget about, right? A lot of us go and we implement and we're like, ta-da! Here it is. There's your system. Have a great time. See you later. Enjoy that. 3 releases a year. Give me a call. So what happens there? So this is a very busy slide to show you how I organized that qualitative data into something that made sense. Do we have sub-themes? Are there things that we can say, these make sense? So I took all of the reasons why people would shift to CRM, and I started putting them together and saying, here's why you would do it, right? It's painful to put things in Excel. We have version control issues. You've got maybe this other CRM system that doesn't work. It's very expensive. The people in delivery don't get access to it. The people in finance want you to pull reports, but you can't share them. So all of these reasons why a person would shift to CRM, organized those together and then said, okay, what's the process of change look like? How does change feel? And nobody said it felt good. Not one single person I interviewed was like, it felt amazing. We rolled it out and everything was great from day one, spectacular. In fact, we might even change from Salesforce because we just like change so much. No! That's what, so many of these big systems depend on. Once you do all of this, you're not going to in 3 years say, is anybody a Dynamics person in here? You're not going to say Dynamics is giving me a better deal, so we're out, right? Because you're stuck now. And that's a really good thing for the people who've invented the system. It becomes sticky. That's what we want to do. And then we said, how did team members learn CRM? Anybody an instructional designer or a learning and development person here? Okay. We've got a couple of people who are like, maybe, or maybe I really am, but I don't want to tell you because you're about to say something about us, right? That's not who people learn from. Nobody was like, we loved our learning and development person. Our instructional designer really gave us everything we needed. And in fact, we read all of their documentation. Right? That's not what people do. They learn from their friends. If they're in service and they're saying, I have to answer every call, I have to solve it within 36 hours, they're saying to their friends, how are you meeting your metrics? If they're in sales, they're saying, how have you met your metrics? Why are you beyond quota? And we're doing the same exact thing. They're asking their friends, how do I not take 17 clicks on an opportunity record before I can save it because somebody's put in all of these validation rules? Right? They're learning it from their friends. How has time saved by CRM helped? This is one of the most ultimate things. If you can say to somebody, you've got something painful, every single Friday you have to tell your sales manager where everything is in your pipeline and what it looks like, and you have to put it on, a PowerPoint slide that you're going to present in front of the entire team on Monday. Nobody likes that. So if you can say, here's where you save time, that's really helpful. That helps to drive adoption. And then finally, the suggestions for improvement. How can we make it better? And I know a lot of people in this room are familiar with SAWA, Salesforce Administration by Walking Around. We don't do a lot of walking around these days if you're only going into the office 2 days a week. But you can say, I have some informal office hours. And then when somebody says, I'm really frustrated by this, you say, share your screen, show me. Let me see where you click. What are you doing? Where are you clicking over here? And you can quickly say, I see something you could do better. Or show me where you're getting stuck. And they're going to tell you. So how do you put this into place? Well, anybody seen this capability maturity model? Okay, a few people. So let me tell you about it. I love this. It's developed out of CMU, and you can find it by Googling it. It's probably hard for you to take a picture of this, but at the end I'll also give you a QR code to reach out to me, and I'm very happy to share these slides. This capability maturity model is a beautiful place for you to develop a common language with the people that you're working with, usually your end users, to say, where are we? What's your perception of where we are? So if you start at stage 1, that's when everything's really unpredictable. This is my favorite place to be, and for the rest of you masochists out there, you probably love this too, because you're like, oh my God, are you a mess? Let's go. These are the people who are saying, we don't have process. And when you're looking at that triangle, the people, process, and technology triangle, all they have are people. They don't have process, they don't have technology, or they say, take my terrible process and put it on this beautiful technology. And then we'll get really mad at you when the system is clunky and doesn't work that well, right? You know this place. You've worked at this place. You've worked with this place. So these are the people that are at stage 1. And then when you move into stage 2, that's when you're saying, you know what, this is pretty well managed. We've got process. We have SOPs. You sign off on them in your first 2 weeks of work, and then you never think about them again until you do something wrong, and we tell you you signed off on that. So when you look at level 2, this is where a lot of organizations are, right? They understand that they need process, but it's very reactive, Becky booked a $300 hotel, and we don't want people to do that, so now we're going to put a process in place that says all hotels have to be under $150, right? That's the kind of thing we're looking at here. When you move into level 3, this is when you're starting to get defined. This is a better organization. This is one that says, you know what, we're proactive. We're going to think about the way people should control their expense management. We're going to install an expense management application so that people know how do you stay within the parameters of what's acceptable in this organization or with this technology. So here, this is like an organization that's sort of running on the rails. They're doing things pretty well, and they probably want to get better, and that's when you're moving into level 4. And this is that quantitatively managed organization. I went to a seminar last week by a guy who wrote a book called The Sale Ready Company, and he said you don't have to be for sale in order to have your company feel clean, like they're sale ready. And I asked him, what's the biggest problem you see with these organizations? And he said, they're not using dashboards, or they're not using dashboards the right way. Who here has ever put together a Salesforce dashboard one time and the client or your end user was like, that's perfect? Nobody. Why not? Because they don't know what they want. They're able to edit what you've given them, but they don't know what they want. They look and they say, yeah, okay, but that doesn't tell me. How many calls should we be making to make connects so that we can make meetings, so that we can put out proposals, so we can send contracts, so we can win the business, and then we can renew them, right? So when you're looking at this quantitatively managed organization, this is a well-organized, very nicely functioning company. We love these people because they know this is what we've got to get to, right? And when they know that they want a new report or a dashboard, they understand you have to be collecting that data to report on it, right? When you look at level 5, this is like the holy grail of an organization. This is one that is really optimized. So they're focused on process improvement. How do we do things better than we did them before so that we can keep growing as a company? Anybody here as old as me and ever heard of Blockbuster? When's the last time you walked into a Blockbuster? Blockbuster forgot to do this. They forgot to optimize, right? They didn't say, how are our numbers looking? When Netflix started sending you those little DVDs in the red envelope to your house that you didn't have to pay late fees on, Blockbuster started moving away because they forgot, hey, we should optimize, right? These are the things we should do. So when you look at this capability maturity model, you can use that to establish common language with your client, with the people that you're working with, to say, where are we and how can we get to where we want to get? So let us talk for a second about my favorite change management theory, which is Lewin's. This is from the 1960s. One of the things that you are supposed to do when you do research is find the most credible current research you can, especially when you're doing research on Salesforce user adoption. Well, guess what, you guys? All of my theories are from the 1960s because that's when people started paying attention to organizational behavior and change. So these are seminal theories that are beautiful and still work well today. I love this one because there are 3 steps. This is the one I use continuously on my husband and child, and they have no idea what's happening to them. Please don't tell them. Because I haven't taken the garbage out on a Monday night in 10 years. So the first thing you have to do is unfreeze the habit. So somebody's got a habit already. This is the habit that they're doing. You start to pull it away in little steps. Unfreeze that habit. So you start to ask questions. Why do you do it this way? Why would you store things on Excel that you then put on a USB that you carry down to somebody else? How did you get into this habit? Who taught you to do that? What else depends on it? Where do these fields go once they leave here? So you start to unfreeze the habit. And that center one is the change. So you take that habit, unfreeze it, make the changes to it, and then you refreeze it. And this is that sort of common thing that you know where it takes 3 weeks to establish a new habit. So you can do this incrementally because in all change research, quick wins are the way to go. You know why? That's how you establish trust. If I came to you right now and I said, guess what? I'm going to build a brand new house for you. And you're like, okay. All right, Shannon, you don't look like you're capable of building a house, but good luck. Let's have a good time. And I said to you, but you need to go away and not watch. Like, just trust me. I'm going to get to the house, and it's going to happen all at once. You're going to be like, no, absolutely not. Like, if I'm building a new house, I want to come see it. I want to see the foundation. I'm going to take pictures. I'm going to put it on Instagram. I'm going to tell all my friends. I want to see those things. That's exactly what this is like. You're building a new house for somebody. You're building a new place for them to store their habits, right? So you want to take these sort of 3 steps and implement them in what you're doing. So if you're gathering user requirements, at that time you should be thinking, how am I going to unfreeze this if this is a really yucky process, if this is a heavy process that requires a lot of steps? Where are the ways that I can take this and change a little bit and give it back to them to get those quick wins so they can trust and believe in me so I can keep doing large transformational things in a way that feels really good to them? So the next thing that I want to show you is Kotter's change management theory. And this one right here, you can use as a punch list. I literally, when somebody says to me, these are the requirements that I have, I will list these 8 things out and I will say, how do I do each one of these steps? And it works every single time. So you notice in that first little grouping where there's 3 gray ones, that's where you're creating the climate for change. I heard yesterday somebody say something that made me want to jump up and clap because it's exactly right. If you've got people who say, I won't do it, I refuse to do it, that's not something I'm going to do, it's okay for you to say, I'm going to put you aside for now. You know, I'm going to think about who are the cheerleaders, who are the champions of this project, who are the people that I can get invested so they can help me create this climate for change. Because you've all worked with those organizations that are very slow moving, right? They're the Titanic. You can see they're headed for a giant disaster, but it's so hard to right the ship because there's so much bureaucracy, or there's so much resistance, or there's a lot of, that's the way we've always done it. And that's the culture there. So how do you create that climate for change? This is a great place for you to get started. Next, you move into creating that coalition. So the people that you've identified, you say to them, all right, I'd like to pull you in. How can I talk? How do you best talk to people here? Do you guys talk on Slack? Do you operate on text messages? Do you have all hands? Should I bring snacks? The answer is always yes to bringing snacks. People love snacks. Then you want to say, what's our vision and strategy? Does anybody have a personal vision statement? Yeah, a couple people do. Having a vision statement for a project, even if it's a small project, is helpful because then everybody can say, I get it, I see where we're going, I know why we're doing it, and then you'll start to share that. And as you move into this second section of the cadence here, where you're saying, how do we engage the whole organization? First, you're going to communicate the vision. A lot of times in projects, I will literally write it for the person who's the project stakeholder. Here's what you should say. Here's your email you should send out. Here's what you're saying in the all hands. And you've got to over-communicate, right? So people understand, why are we making this change, right? Why are you making me add this whole new process that I didn't have to do before. I used to be able to run down into the warehouse and say to people, hey, somebody's got a major problem with one of our products, and now you want me to type it into Salesforce? So if you say, hey, look, here's the vision. This is why we're doing the thing. We're going to make your job easier. We're going to be able to help customers self-service on the very small things you answer over and over and over again. They'll start to understand what their part is. Next, you empower the action. Zappos is a really good example of this. Anybody ever seen Zappos? Zappos, the people who work for Zappos are empowered to make anything right for customers up to a certain dollar amount. So they're allowed to say, hey, I'm a tier 1 service representative, but I can make this right for you. They're very empowered. It's an employee-driven organization. People love working there. People love shopping there. So they have said to people, here's how you're empowered. So make that very clear and specific. These are the things you're empowered to do. Next is getting those quick wins. You've got to plan for those way, way, way in the beginning. A lot of times, as brilliant technologists, we forget. People need to feel like, I understand where you're going and I want to be a part of it. And giving them quick wins is an awesome way to get there. And then you move into, and this one is a little deceptive because the arrow looks like you're just climbing up to success. These last steps, you can't really stop. They don't end. They keep going. Salesforce is awesome because they have 3 different releases a year that forces everybody to say, I know I have to keep changing. It's iterative, right? Somebody yesterday referred to the build versus buy, and I was like, the problem with build is nobody's ever saying 3 times a year we're giving you something a little better. Salesforce does that. It forces us to think this way. So when we're working with it, it's great for us. The people who are working with it may not feel that way. They might not say, like, we too love change constantly. So you're going to say, how do we leverage the wins to drive the change? You have to tell them about it. A lot of times as humans, we don't like bragging on ourselves, right? There's a term that sort of has developed during the social media age, humble bragging, right? I am telling you right now, I'm empowering you. Go ahead and brag on it. Tell the people, here's what we did as a team, here's what was executed, and these were the outcomes. Now all of the people at our support centers have 17 extra minutes a day because they're able to capture things that we can immediately work on. Our salespeople have realized $100,000 extra in quota a year because of the things we've done in Salesforce. So telling people, this is what we did, this was the outcome, and here's how we're going to leverage it is amazing. You should be your own PR factory with all of the things that you're undertaking. And then lastly, how do you embed it in the culture, right? So, when I'm looking around today and I see people in these Hike 2 shirts, I love them. They're beautiful. I can immediately identify who can tell me what time is coffee, where's the restroom, right? This is part of the culture here. These shirts are saying, I'm here to help you, right? So how do you then say we're going to embed this in the culture? You've seen there's loads of applications that sit inside of Salesforce that say, give us some feedback. Tell us what's wrong. Tell us what's right. So there are ways to say, we demand and expect continuous improvement. If you scan this, it'll take you to my LinkedIn. Please reach out to me so I can share these slides with you. And I've got further research that I am happy to send as well.